thank you. Welcome. It's been a little while since we've had one of these. I think for lots of different reasons, and I think it's probably testament to the fact that each of us, I think, has struggled a little bit with the amount of online meetings. This whole idea from working from home has got lots of benefits, and being remote for a lot of us. I know some people have gone back to the office, but I think it comes with its benefits, but also comes with its challenges. And certainly trying to find the time and the energy and the enthusiasm and all the other things to put on events to get people interested in them I think is a bit of a challenge. But it's great that we've got some people on board today. And I think the idea was we're coming towards the end of a year. We know there are probably some things that have gone well this year from a Tableau user group perspective and just sort of generally in the Tableau space. But we've had a long gap since the last one. There's a little bit of momentum has been lost, and it seemed like a very good opportunity for us to close out the year with a little quick recap on a few things that we picked up from Tableau conference, which happened last week for anyone who didn't attend. And we've got some links and things around that we can share. But then also to kind of see where we are in terms of a state of play and see where we might like to go in 2022, the kind of things we'd like to do. I think we're all keen and willing, if possible, to maybe return to some sort of hybrid model where we can host events as well as being online, because I think it's nice that we've got the option of both. It's not always easy and convenient, even pre-COVID, for people to travel to events, but I think it's nice if we've got the option of both. I think it'll start just reigniting the community a little bit. And then also for us to get some ideas around the kind of things that will best serve everyone going forward, the kind of maybe the kind of guest speakers we can bring in, the kind of subjects we want to cover, the timings, the location. It's kind of all up for grabs, I think. I mean, ultimately, I think the four of us, myself, Gerrit, Amir, and Rud, from our side, we're here to make sure we're facilitating and serving what goes on. It's not about our agenda or what we want to do with it. It's for us to be here, which gets the best out of the local community, starts building some interest, and we build up some sort of friendships and communication along the way. So with all that said, I'm going to dive in, unless any of my colleagues have got anything they'd like to add. I will dive into my quick reflections on some of the things that came out of the conference last week. Anything from anyone, or shall I go?
I think I can maybe just say everything that obviously we all agree with what Nick has said, and I actually want to thank Nick for actually pushing a little bit to get this last session in. I think all of us were probably very guilty of feeling exhausted and like, okay, maybe we should just wait until next year. But yeah, thanks for pushing it. I think it's important for the tug to not die. So yeah, thanks for keeping up the momentum, and I'm sure next year, especially if we can have a bit of a hybrid and maybe meet up at some time, I think it will be great.
My pleasure. Thanks, Rod.
Yeah, I can add on to that. Also, thanks, Nick. Really, I think we've been super quiet. So I even forgot to log into the Slack, the Slack group for quite a while. But anyway, yeah, it's really like we obviously just looking forward to 2022, and we're really interested to know what everyone else here would like to see from it. So we'll chat about that closer to the end, and probably send out another communication after the session today, just to try and gauge like what people's thoughts are and what they would like to see next year. Thanks, Nick.
All good. My pleasure. Okay. So what I would say, just in terms of obviously the chat window is open. If you've got any thoughts and ideas that are coming through, please throw it in there. And I know the guys will be monitoring it while I'm frantically staring at PowerPoint. But also, we'll drop things like our survey link in there. We'll go through some of the survey results we had earlier. But any ideas, any thoughts, please throw it in there. Also, we're generally a small enough group. If I'm waffling on a point that no one wants to hear, or there's something more you want to hear about it, then please just dive in and interrupt me, and we'll take it from there. The whole point is that we can be interactive. It's not about just me talking. Okay, cool. So let me just quickly bring up my clicker so I can actually see what I'm doing. Okay, so very quick presentation from my side. Tableau Conference 21 is in the books. It was last week for those of you who attended. For those of you who didn't know, a lot of it is available now on catch up, and it's well worth looking at some of the sessions that are there. There's a wealth of kind of information across different platforms. And there were some very bold statements around where Tableau was going. So it's a good time, I think, maybe for us to review it a little, and also to get everyone's thoughts on what they took out of it, or where you see it going. I mean, I picked up a real sense that they're taking on Alteryx and they're taking on Power BI by broadening Tableau's capabilities. There's a lot tighter integration with things like Slack, which Rowan is going to talk to you a little bit later. More predictive functionality coming out of Salesforce, and there's just a lot of stuff to be curious and interested about. For me, I find it impossible to kind of choose one thing that I loved about it in terms of what came out, or the things that interest me or intrigue me. So I'm going to do my top 5. And yeah, feel free to add your own favorites into the chat if there's something that isn't there, or we'd like to hear your thoughts. So my top 5 from Tableau Conference 21. So the first one, I find this one quite interesting. So this is the idea of virtual connections. And the best way I've seen this described is to think of this as a layer above data sources. So it's a managed connection to a data source. So if you're looking at something like Snowflake, for argument's sake, you can manage a single credential set to connect to Snowflake, the environment from which you could then manage multiple data sources. And I think this is quite an interesting concept, just around, they're focusing, I think, quite heavily on various aspects of server management and governance and other bits and pieces. And I think having this in place is going to enable that quite a bit. And number 4, I would say Viz extensions. This is something that I'm quite excited about. But that's because I like playing around in desktop. I'm just going to admit someone here. Because I like playing around in desktop and creating interesting things. I think what is nice, it's almost kind of a way that they're going to start formalizing a lot of the amazing work that's gone out in the community, from work on Tableau Public, a lot of the Zen Masters and other people kind of pushing the boundaries in terms of what Tableau can do. And it's kind of the next follow-on iteration of the extensions library that already exists. And it's going to allow for custom visuals to be easily configured and used in Tableau. So when we're talking about things like Sankey diagrams and sunbursts, and a whole bunch of other things that don't easily happen in Tableau, these will be kind of drag and drop extensions that we can bring in. And again, this is definitely kind of taking on the Power BI model, where there's the kind of the app kind of approach where you can download community visuals, but it opens up a whole sort of number of offerings. I think the fact that as analysts and users of data, that we'll have some different things available to us for people who are really kind of coming up with cutting edge designs, is a chance for them to put it out into the community, and maybe some people sort of playing on both sides. Okay, at number 3 is explain the viz. If anyone has used explain data, this is kind of explain data on steroids. So whereas explain data, the whole idea behind it was an outlier or a mark or something interesting that was sort of sitting there, might be skewing your results, and it was something that you would be able to sort of interrogate. Then explain the viz kind of takes that to a much wider level. So rather than it just being focused on a particular point, a particular mark, this is much more around being able to explain everything that's going on in the dashboard or a particular visual. And it doesn't seem like it's limited to the fields that are specifically within your data set. It could go wider, I think, to the data source itself. So there might be other factors that are sitting in the data, even in stuff that you're not necessarily visualizing, might explain some of the things that are going on. So this is very much that driver around making some quite advanced analysis simpler for the user. We've got things like Ask Data, which is the natural language processing, which they're doing some additional work around explaining these points. It's kind of leveraging the power that's sitting behind Tableau to do a lot of things quite cleverly and make it quite simple and seamless for the user. And there's a whole panel within the setup on server kind of dedicated to it. So again, I think there's a lot more going to be happening in this space, because there's a lot of real estate that they can use and lots of ways that they can integrate it. So I think, like a lot of the things that happen on the Tableau roadmap, I think this will be the first in a line of things that then get built upon. And then at number 2 is the workbook optimizer. I was chatting a little bit with the other guys before the start, and as a consultant, I'm not sure whether I love this or I'm terrified, because this could put me out of a job. But effectively what this is, it's kind of a checkpoint before you upload your dashboard, your set of worksheets. It'll give you some pointers around where potential challenges are, where there are things that there's a potential performance issue. They'll give you warnings. It'll give you hints for improvement and sort of things that you can do sort of to fine tune it before you let it loose on a wider community. It'll, again, like all these things, be very, very interesting to see how that translates into reality. Because sometimes these features come through and they're perhaps not quite what we expect them to be or as good as we expect them to be. But I think this one is, I think it's very, very important. And as visuals are getting more complex, data's getting bigger, then I think this is something that could be very, very important for end users. And so the number one. So despite all the technical stuff, the roadmap announcements and everything that was going on, actually the real winner for me was the experience itself. And I'm quite a cynical guy when it comes to sort of online things and getting involved in sessions. And it really did surprise me, impress me, kind of blow me away in many ways. I've definitely got online fatigue. I've definitely got meeting fatigue, and I've sat in so many things that have purported to be quite interesting up front. And when you got involved in it, it's just been it's all fallen a little bit flat. But I think Tableau did an amazing job. And a lot of people, I say Tableau, it's a lot of people. It's a lot of people in the community. It's lots of people working for Tableau themselves. But just a lot of people put a lot of time, a lot of thought, and a lot of effort to make it interesting, to make it immersive. There were specific Slack channels running for the whole period. There were other things happening on social media. There was a whole brain dates site where you could set up discussions with like-minded people about topics. You could set your own ones up. You could meet up with other people. So they tried to kind of, I think, cover that aspect of the whole sort of networking in-person experience that you would typically get at a conference. And I think they did a really good job on it. I mean, I've made some fantastic connections, had some really interesting discussions with people, watched some really good events and talks and on a variety of different topics. They broke it out really nicely in terms of the different tracks that you could follow. And if you were prepared to dive in and out and sort of see a slightly different spread of different areas, so not only focusing, say, on technical wizardry, but sort of looking at culture and inclusivity and those kind of things. There was a whole range of things for it to do. And it did have a fantastic cheese factor. They obviously spent a lot of money and budget on a team of people who did specific jingles in between different shows, and there was kind of all these little things happening around and in between it, which, yes, it was cheesy, but it was fun. And I think that was the point of it. They didn't take it too seriously. I didn't feel at any point like it was overloading. There were gaps between the sessions. It wasn't this sort of 12-hour back-to-back monster sort of take of meetings. Lots of things that you could line up for watching later, so that and easy ways to plan your way through the event. So for me, well done to Tableau. I've never been to a Tableau conference in person. I'm hoping one day I'll get there, but I would think this is probably the next best thing. So yeah, that was my number one, the experience itself. And that is really my chat and reflections. I will share some links either on our Slack channel or on follow-up communications, because there are some good things that have come out in terms of reviewing some of the key points that came out of it. And obviously, as we go along, we'll see, as these things start coming out, we can start discussing them a little bit more in subsequent tags next year and have a look at some of these new features in action. But otherwise, yeah, we'll see you all for Data 22. Thank you very much.
Thanks, Nick. Quick question, did they give any indication on when they are planning to host an event again, or was that just too difficult to say at this stage?
It was, yeah, it's interesting. Let me just end this show here and I'll stop sharing because I'll be looking at this. But yeah, they didn't give a specific time frame around it. There's definitely, I mean, like, I'm quite involved particularly on Twitter with a lot of the guys who are very involved in kind of what's going on. So the community, the ambassadors and other things that are happening. And there's definitely that sense that they're kind of creeping towards it. If I look at things like, I was looking, there's a Snowflake conference that's happening, I think either later this week or next week. There's already the adverts up for that being an in-person event in July, I think, next year. So I think there are some moves towards it. There was some talk. I saw some chat about the timing of it moving maybe towards the middle of next year. So rather than being in November, it's going to come earlier in the year. But yeah, at the moment, hard to say. But you can see, I mean, there's a lot of people very keen for it to become in person again.
Okay, cool. Got one more question. I don't know if you can answer it. But of those features that you've mentioned, or those new features, do we know when they will be landing? Is it in the next release, or did they give an indication on that?
We do. Is there, I don't know who asked the question, but if there's a specific one, I've got a little document I can dig around in the background, because I was taking notes as I went along, and there are some things as to where it's coming. They broke it into either, there were one or two things they presented actually that are already there. So I mean, that was kind of by the by. But I know there are things like, one of the ones I didn't list, which was unlimited map layers from different data sources now. So not that it has to come from one spot. That's coming in. I know that's coming 2021.4. I think the workbook optimizer is coming very soon. And then they broke it up into kind of half one, half two for the year for next year. That's about as well as they got pinned down. But certainly if there's a specific feature, I'm very happy to go and dig around and find something out and see what I can rustle up from the community. See.
Cool. Thank you. Yeah, so Nick already mentioned that unless somebody's got any questions about what he already spoke about, I'll just quickly mention what I'm excited about. Is that all right?
It's all good. Yeah, feel free to shout.
I'm excited to see Jock here. Oh, man.
Hi, guys. I thought I'd just chip in. Yeah, how are you guys doing? It's nice hearing your voices again.
It's been a while, man.
Yeah, it's been a while. So yeah, I started the 1st of November. I started at Tableau here in the EU, in the Netherlands, and it's been quite insightful, I must say. Also been following the Tableau conference. With regards to those deployment dates, I might just get something internal for you, which I can tell you when those things are going to be deployed.
Good man.
But I think I've got it here somewhere. But yeah, I'll definitely have a look and see if I can get that for you guys. But yeah, I think maybe something I wanted to add, which you guys didn't mention, which I got very excited about, is the Tableau Business Science. So they're actually now implementing the Einstein Analytics from Salesforce into a Tableau, and they're trying to streamline the data science or business science approach, as they call it, just to make predictions a bit easier for non-technical users. I'm quite excited about that, but I think there's still a while until that gets implemented. But yeah, and also, I don't know if you guys mentioned the data management capabilities. So something like row level security, which is already available in Power BI, for instance, is now, I think Tableau have had a look over the wall and seen, okay, cool, they also need to implement something like that. But yeah, row level security is also something that's coming into play. So quite excited. And yeah, I think you guys mentioned most of the rest. But it was quite cool. What do you guys think of the jingles? The Tableau jingles. It's quite cringy, yeah?
It was cringy, but it was kind of okay. It sort of worked. It was
yeah,
terrible but good. I don't know the best way to describe it. But yeah, I saw the first and thought, no, surely. And then after a while, I was like, actually.
I've actually, there's a full version on YouTube I can also share with you guys, which is excellent. It's about 2 minutes long, so get ready.
Yeah, please do. Actually, I mean, I'm trying to get people in my organization excited about Tableau again, because I mean, like I said earlier, they started with it probably more than a year ago, and then it almost went completely into a graveyard. So now I'm trying to reignite some passion for it. And then I thought I'll share some of these things coming from the conference, but those jingles and all of that made me think, okay, maybe it's not going to go down well at this stage.
Yeah, even internally on the internal Slack channels, there were quite a few comments around those.
Yeah,
but,
yeah, it was definitely a Marmite thing. You could see.
Yeah,
there was no middle ground. Yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah, you have to be a fan first before you get introduced to stuff like that.
Yeah,
definitely. Jacques, I mean, it's interesting. I liked your point around the the business science stuff, because it was quite, I mean, it was quite interesting, and obviously there's great strides being made to now try and leverage all the stuff that can come out of Salesforce. I mean, the interesting thing coming out for me is, again, going forward, will be the cost associated with it, because I know there's almost like a cost on both sides. You know, there's the Tableau side and then the Salesforce side, which almost leans to, like, if you're already a Salesforce customer and you've added Tableau locally, I'm thinking, then maybe it's doable. But it's just, the problem around it. I think the challenge we're going to certainly here, I would see in the South African market, it's like, it's a significant investment. So you kind of got to be sure. For me, the data management stuff and those sort of bolt-ons that you get, I think that's much more of a no-brainer here in terms of if you're going to spend more money, that would be that's kind of the place to go.
Yeah, clear. Yeah, I think the same thing. It's because it's quite tricky to implement the two together as well. You need some Salesforce background to be able to integrate all those features. But yeah, I'm also still learning, so I'm really looking forward to how they're going to do that.
Yeah.
But yeah, like you said, I think it's quite an investment. Yeah. Okay.
Cool. So yeah,
I just have a question around the data management stuff. Has anyone else here like implemented it in their business? It's something we did look at, but it deemed very expensive for, you know, what we in the end would actually get out of it. So I'm not sure if Tableau is planning on changing the sort of licensing structure on that, but it's, yeah, I'm just curious if anyone else here has a little bit of experience with it.
Gerard, would you mind confirming my understanding? I mean, we haven't implemented it, but it's a bolt-on license, right? So you pay per user license, you pay an additional, what's it, $6.50 per month or something like that?
Yes, exactly. So I mean, the reason I'm interested is, or why it's, and I guess I can pose this to Ed or something like that, but why, you know, the license structure works like that. Whether, you know, the people that's going to actually use the data management add-on or whatever is going to be like limited to 2 or 3 people. Like, why do you need to add on that cost to each and every user license or user that you have in your platform, for example? But yeah, I guess it's definitely a question for the account managers, because that was sort of the hard stop and the reason we didn't go with it. It just, yeah, it was too expensive.
Yeah, I've also asked the question because obviously from a consulting point of view, we're seeing it coming up as a question. And again, you know, it's one of those, oh yeah, you know, $6 per user when you're kind of dealing with a currency that's not rands, it seems to be a little bit simpler. But there's also, you know, for me, just the fact that it's kind of half the cost again of a viewer license. You know, there's kind of, yeah, I think there is benefits of it to come out of it, but much in the same way that I felt like before we went to subscription pricing model here, it was always difficult. Tableau Server was on certainly in terms of client examples, it was quite prohibitive in terms of cost. The subscription model definitely helped that. And I think for these kind of markets, it's not just going to be us, it's lots of the kind of emerging markets. I think some sort of granularity around the data management stuff, if it's to gain a foothold, I think it needs to happen. But it's, I mean, certainly in the conversation I've had with the likes of Ed and other people at Tableau, it certainly seems to be an area that is being driven very hard. Tableau Blueprint, data management, those sort of aspects of things are definitely high on the agenda. So if it's not gaining traction here, it'll be interesting to see if they can come up with a slightly different model for us.
Yeah, just to give you guys some internal perspective, Tableau Blueprint is on the tip of everybody's tongue at the moment. So that's definitely something they're trying to push very hard. So
awesome. Yeah, so from my side, I just, like I already said now, I'm an organization now that hasn't really used Tableau that much, and we actually think that, you know, the new Slack integration is gonna really help. Well, it's really gonna help me when people over again, because we're an organization that lives and breathes and everything in Slack. We currently got about 200 employees, and without looking at data or stats, I would probably guess that there's probably about 500 Slack messages per minute or something. It's crazy. I mean, I was really overwhelmed when I joined the company. I was also very impressed because they've got it nailed down to like the standards that you should be using and when you should be doing what and how you address people and what channels you should be using and what naming conventions you should use and stuff. So everybody is on Slack the whole day, and everybody's in channels. You're also not really allowed to DM people. It's not against the rules, but it's strongly discouraged. So I really think that, you know what, especially now that that they announced that there's going to be two-way communication between Slack and Tableau server. I mean, it was great that we can drop things on channels, but that's not really new technology. Some other tools have been doing it already, and people have found ways to do it without, you know, without Tableau. But I think this new feature where you can actually get your alert, and from that alert start asking questions back to the Tableau server in a natural query language. I think that's going to be great. That's a bit of a, definitely for us, it's a bit of a game changer. So I'm very excited about it. We haven't even set up the integration, the one-way integration yet. We're currently busy with that, but I really think it's going to help me with what we're trying to do with Tableau at Baystack. So yeah.
Yeah, I think the idea is also that you stay in the flow. You get a message about something that we spotted, and you can explain the viz, and from there start doing more analysis, but just by staying in the chat, not having to navigate to another screen. Yeah.
And I think I told some of the guys just before the meeting, I only found out recently that Slack was also acquired by Salesforce. So you're probably going to see even a tighter integration going forward. I mean, this is probably the first steps in that process. So I'm really looking forward to what they can come up with next.
See, there's a question in the chat just around costs around Slack. Whether it's an additional cost. I mean, to my knowledge, it might be when we start talking about the realms of where it starts crossing further into maybe hitting the Salesforce portion, but I don't think there's anything additional that I'm aware of. I don't know if you spot anything, Johan.
My understanding, and this is just my understanding, is that so you can post something to Slack, and anybody can see that whether they've got a Tableau license or not. But if they wanted to then click on the dashboard and to take them through to the server or interact with this new natural query language, then they would require at least a viewer license, I expect.
Yeah, that makes sense.
Thanks, Ron.
It was quite interesting, Jacques. I liked your point around the staying in the flow. I mean, one of the things, because, and again, I'd be really interested on anyone else's thoughts around it. But I mean, one of the things that I have liked about Tableau over the years is the fact that, look, there's definitely an expanded kind of message that was coming out this year. You know, we're going to be all analytics to all men everywhere at all times. You know, it's kind of, you know, there's this bigger kind of vision. But I like the fact that, you know, for so long it has stayed with, we help people see and understand data. And as far back as I can remember using Tableau, the whole idea of staying in the flow has been kind of the watchword for how they've approached certain things. And it's very nice that there still remains the consistency and continuity around it. It's not kind of, oh, we were going down a blind valley here, let's go somewhere else. It's just continued evolutions of it, which I think is pretty cool, actually.
Yeah, definitely. As you mentioned, yeah, it definitely supports the mission and the vision of helping people understand data, because they found that some people really struggle working with the desktop tool and interacting with the server tool. And by keeping it sort of in a Slack flow, allowing them to explain the data using Einstein Analytics in the background, sort of it will open it up to more people to understand data, interact with data, and sort of take away that unease that some people have working with the more technical tools. Yeah, I think they're on the right path. Maybe something to mention as well. I'm not sure if you guys mentioned it already, but they're also committed to training 10 million people in data literacy, which is, for me, was quite a big statement to make. To say that you're going to help 10 million people become data literate in 5 years is quite a statement. But they're really driving that, and I think that works sort of in our benefit, because the more people that's comfortable with data analytics and interacting with data, in that way you sort of you grow your own market. And that's what they're also phrase that's been going around is the Tableau economy, sort of getting external developers in, building the community, and sort of building a economy around the product. And in that way, creating your own economy, which of course, at the end of the day, leads to more upselling and expansion of the framework and of the product. So
yeah,
very glad.
That is quite interesting. And again, there's other little things that I picked up that are coming that sort of make sense to that. They've obviously, there's obviously a lot of thought that has gone into kind of also tapping into the power of the community now. The idea that, Tableau prep data flows are going to be available on Tableau Public now. That's starting to come, and that sort of side of things. And I did laugh a bit with the hire me button that you can put on your Tableau Public profile. But the whole point is, it's still, there's that acknowledgement that it's connecting many things. There's lots kind of going on here, and it's quite interesting.
Yeah, and if you think about it, it also gives people that's interested in the field an opportunity. For now, instance, you can do a bit of free Tableau training. You can build your public profile and play around visualizations. And now you can even set yourself up for a future career in data analytics with only utilizing this structure. Yeah.
Did anyone watch your Iron Viz?
Yeah. That was quite an experience, I must say. 20 minutes, but I think they do a lot of prep beforehand because they go way too quick.
I know
there's a lot of prep.
But I think what amazed me, and what I thought was fantastic. the Lisa Trescott who won it. She's been using Tableau for a year or something.
Yeah,
it was just mind blowing. But also, what was lovely about it was just really well done. There was lots of technical skill, but lots of design skill. And so it wasn't this kind of, fireworks and all kinds of stuff going on. It was just a really well thought out piece of analysis and design. And I thought that was also quite heartening for people like me who keep falling apart on calculations that got lots of maths in them. There's hope for me that I could build four basic visualizations, tell a good story, and I might be okay. But it was, I like that the emphasis has gone away from just this technical kind of wizardry. It's kind of there was a lot bigger focus this whole time around storytelling, I felt. I think something that judges mentioned as well. I think it's about getting that story right, because she had even a section to the left where she only had text, where she just gave some context around the insights that she wanted to share. And then it's very easy to follow, and I find that even more important than being technically proficient is being able to tell a story and communicate insights to your end users in a way that they understand it and they can interact with it. Yeah.
But it was also a bit cheesy, I must say.
Andy Cockreeve at his finest.
Yeah.
Anyone else got any sort of thoughts, anything that came out of Tableau conference, or any questions on any of the things that have been covered?
No, I'm afraid I completely missed the entire thing, so I still have to catch up on it. I tend not to watch it because in our organization it takes about at least 6 months to 12 months to upgrade our server to the next iteration. So so I don't want to get super excited for anything. So we're way behind that sort of thing. So
yeah, it's like someone holding sweets outside your window.
Yeah,
you can't quite get out. Yeah.
Maybe to give you some light at the end of the tunnel, that they're working towards getting most of Tableau server features into Tableau Online. And Tableau Online, it's an online hosted site, and they don't have to worry about server upgrades and things. It's totally a managed solution. And I know there's a couple of features that at the moment it's not available on online. It's only available server, but they're definitely working towards a online only solution for Tableau. So they're even thinking about doing away with Tableau Desktop. And all the desktop applications, just like Salesforce, is also totally online. So they're working towards that same sort of configuration for Tableau.
Yeah, that's cool. Yeah, so every now and then because I work predominantly on desktop, so every now and then if I have to do a quick edit and it's already a published workbook, then I tend to quickly just jump in online and make that small change. But I must say, like at this point, it's quite frustrating. So if I can make that better, it'll be really cool.
Yeah. There's actually, I found that my other online hack that I found out this week, and I was just going through stuff. Anyone who's got a Tableau public profile, it's that the web editing is great now, because if you've got a whole bunch of things, because it only gets ordered by sort of date of submission, and before you had to kind of resubmit things up, kind of move things closer up to the top of your profile, you can just open the ones you want, edit it, save it, don't do anything to it, and close it, and it just jumps up to the top of your list. It's just a lot faster now. So I can, the bits that I'm working on can kind of go down the list, and the things I'm proud of can come a little bit higher. So
I think something that I definitely, well, I mean, there's quite a few vendors and so on that we pose this question to, but specifically around in our organization, seeing it be US based and listed company and so on, like stocks and so on, plays a massive role. So, you know, how can you, so obviously with sort of code deployment stuff, you can use GitHub and so on to actually review code and so on, but how can we actually look at something like that on Tableau, for example? So the moment like we use GitHub and it's just purely where the versions of stuff is saved, people then have to, you know, pull down the sort of pull request or whatever, and then review on their desktop side before anything gets published. But it would be actually quite nice having a platform where you can actually, you know, see the differences between like what changed within a dashboard. And it's not just limited to Tableau. I mean, some of the other vendors stuff we use, like there's not too much, you know, effort that's put behind that. And I know there's obviously like version control within Tableau itself, where you can revert back to previous workbooks and so on, but it's just that whole like review process, which is like quite important. In that perspective.
Yeah, I had the same problem when working with Power BI, because Power BI has the same problem. There's no way to do a sort of a change control like you would do with proper code solutions. But I think it's at the end of the day, Tableau and Power BI at the bottomest level is XML. So you could potentially do it in that way, but that gets very tricky. But I haven't really heard of a solution yet to help with that. Definitely have a look into that and maybe mention it in the team as to what do they think the best solution is, or something like that. Because that's also something as a consultant I've always worried about with these dashboard files is, you need a way to identify what changed, because visually you can always see that something changed, but if a calculation changed a little bit, it's quite hard to spot. Okay.
No, I think it's specifically like pointed to, so we do a lot of our financial reporting within Tableau. So we don't want to say hacked stuff together to get, you know, the outputs and so on that our finance team usually, you know, got out of Excel and so on. And it became actually quite advanced, and what Tableau can actually, you know, get for us there, which is great. So all our financial reporting is done in there. And that's the main reason why, you know, our systems are behind SOX, for example. So, you know, we usually just have to go and check the front end. Obviously, we still have the processes on Git, so we can link those things up to, you know, the ticketing systems we have and so on. But it would be actually quite nice, just, you know, automating that whole process, which would be interesting. Sorry, Nick, interrupted you there.
No, not at all. I was actually going to sort of taking something off to the side of your point, just around obviously where we talk about things we might want to have and kind of the you know, the things that maybe are on the roadmap. I think one of the good uses I think we should maybe look to as well with the Slack channel and the other sort of means at our disposal. You know, if on your side you've got something that, you know, you actually care about, if it's logged already on the community, then upvote it, but also make other people aware of it. I think if we as a group and as a community locally, it's great to do those things, because sure as eggs, most of the time if one of us is hitting the problem, more than one of us is going to be interested in the solution. So I think we should try and use our own community to try and do that as well, and upvote it, because often, you know, it's just the sheer fact of not knowing it was someone was thinking about it, or not knowing there was something we could upvote. You won't necessarily go there, but I think it'll be a good way to support each other in those things.
Yeah, absolutely. Right. I think that sort of brings us to the next sort of point. I don't know if there's any other question.
Nicely there. Yeah.
So you planned this out really well, Nick.
What can I say?
Cool. I know there's not a lot of people in here, but we sent out a communication just around like a small survey, just with a few questions and stuff in there. We can also chat about it now. We haven't had, I think we only had 4 responses thus far. So I think the whole reason for the survey is like, obviously we just want this user group to be successful in the end. And obviously, you know, we want to do what everyone else is interested in, and we present stuff that other people are interested in, and also just find out like if there's other people that we'd like to present, and not just always listening to our voices, I guess, in the end. So yeah, I'm just keen with everyone in here. Is like any specific suggestions on stuff like people we'd want to see next year? Some other questions in there is like, obviously, like we still work permanently remotely, but you know, do we like, are people interested to sort of follow the hybrid approach? I think that Ron alluded to earlier. So, you know, maybe a in-person event next year. We'll obviously make everything virtual as well, even though it will be in like, if we do have an in-person event, but we're just trying to gauge like, you know, what people are looking for, you know, out of this.
So just around the kind of location, I think having it in person at some point is could be great. I think I'm not entirely sure. It feels when we did the in-person events, we certainly had a larger turnout as well, which is great. So I think that's. I mean, it'll be great if we can do something like that. In terms of content, I always get frustrated with Tableau sort of webinars because sometimes it's too cultural. Otherwise, sometimes it's almost too technical or too abstract. So it's quite difficult to kind of pin down exactly what the interest, the interest is, or my specific interest. But I think that being part of a group like this and more people having more different interests, you know, again, coming forward and asking for that, that'll be great, because sometimes, a lot of times, you learn things that you didn't know, you know, existed in the first place, and then you can leverage from that. Just something that kind of in my own Tableau journey, you know, something, you know, there's a lot of focus on building the reports and you know, and how you can do it, but there's a lot of back end enterprise information that we never really talk about. So having a server, doing user roles, doing low level type of security, those sort of things, and really onboarding stakeholders and managers and getting them to, you know, off of Excel and onto Tableau and getting that feedback, and like, how do you build a report for production? Those the type of questions that, you know, like issues that are ran into kind of you know, as in the beginning, where and those are subjects that you don't always see and people don't really talk about. So I think that's something that I would like to hear more about in the future.
So much for feedback, Nick. I think what might be relevant, and I'll pose it to the rest of the room here. I think it was, when was it, in 2017, I think I presented in Cape Town CBD for one of the Tableau events, just on our Tableau journey, and that touches on almost all the points that you listed there, Nico. And obviously this is now like 3-4 years after the fact. So I think, like, I'm totally happy to present in the next session, you know, next year, just on, you know, our Tableau journey, seeing that we, you know, quite a few things have changed even since then, after the sort of implementation that we've done. So I'd definitely be keen to share some more on that. I know something else that also pops out is like just server management and maintenance behind the scenes and so on, just to ensure that the server is, like, you know, always performant, and you know, people don't have to wait for dashboards to load and so on. So So that's so far what we've gauged from the survey sort of responses. But yeah, we'll obviously share the survey link again after the session. It's in the chat as well. I think we just really be keen to just hear from everyone what they're interested in. And I guess Nick, you spoke about the Slack workspace and stuff. How can we make that a little bit more engaging? I know there's actually a community page for the Cape Town Tableau user group as well. Maybe you should be a little bit more active there as well. Share resources in there. But yeah, I think we can definitely, engaging is always the main thing.
Yeah, maybe just to add, I'm happy to assist you guys with some of the more technical aspects. I'm starting my Tableau consultancy journey in January, so then I'll get access to most of the resources the consultants here have available. And they try to use best practice wherever, and depending on the degree of literacy I've achieved by then, I can maybe help you guys out with a couple of questions here and there. I'm happy to assist where I can.
Fantastic, thanks, Jacques. And I think it's a really good point that there are lots of there's a huge focus on so many of the things that you come across that it's all about the kind of the sexy, clever stuff, and the visual kind of stuff that sits there. But there's a hell of a lot that happens behind that. I mean, that's why I've been quite involved with the Tableau Prep and the Tableau Prep user group over the last year, because again taking it slightly further away from there. But there's a huge amount around server management. I'm also happy to chip in. I mean, I'm fortunate enough to have some contacts as well from a partner standpoint, and some of the technical pre-sales guys and architects there. So I can also, if there's a specific topic, I'm sure between us we can make a plan about if we can present it ourselves, or if there's someone we can call in to assist. Definitely. I mean, I think that'll be very cool.
Yeah, and you guys obviously said a lot more than I could thought of. But yeah, so within our company, I also now moved away more from the data space into more transactional systems. But I still think that we also do have a long way to go in terms of establishing Tableau. So it's very heartwarming for me to hear that some people moved and now back on that stage, or we changed over the years how we did things. So it will also, there are definitely people out there that would like to hear, these kind of, okay, this is the lessons we learned, this is how we approach it, because I think it is a difficult thing to establish data literacy, or establish a tool like Tableau, especially in a big company like PEP. So so I think that will be awesome, that we don't underestimate those nuggets from people that's been there and done these things. So that will be awesome. And then obviously it's awesome to keep abreast of, people that put things in layman's terms. That helps a lot. So thanks for that.
I think an interesting resource to look at would be the Tableau Blueprint, which basically categorizes the entire implementation and governance of a Tableau ecosystem into the company. So something like that, PEP would really add value. I worked with CT TUG and our customer success manager in the UK at Tableau to implement that TUG. And it's quite extensive as well as intensive. And you can go with it at your own pace, and as well as get guided assistance. But I would definitely say that should be a resource to look at. It's something maybe that can be further discussed within the TUG. Maybe the three main categories of that, and then those subcomponents. Yeah.
Amir, I totally agree with you. One of the first things that was discussed with me when starting is Tableau Blueprint, and how important that is with client implementations. That's sort of their Bible they use to go in there and set up the client for success. So yeah, definitely the truth.
Awesome, thanks.
Well, it sounds like we have our first subjects to talk about next year. So at least we've got the first meeting, waxed, I guess, in that sense.
I'm very excited because I know I won't have to speak because it's all it's all the stuff that I can leave to the smart people. So it's great.
The smart guys that usually stay quiet.
That even proves it because I don't ever shut up. So are there any other thoughts? Yeah, Nico, go for it.
Yeah, sorry, man. So maybe so is there any, or do we have any expertise within maybe this group in terms of using Tableau and modeling for the future, forecasting, and that's do we have how do you use it? Do you use TabPy, or do you do it kind of outside in either in Python or Alteryx, then pull it in? And I definitely would like to look to learn that. So what we're doing now in our company, so we've got a million people doing forecasts, which is great, and we've got some great analytics that does that, but from a continent point of view, we want to do it slightly differently. And so we're trying to do kind of machine learning in Python and then just pulling the data basically as a data frame into Tableau. But what are the options within Tableau to actually do something like that? Or even if we have the model, we can just bring it in without having to kind of without building the table out.
I think Tableau is looking to solve that with business science, but there are ways to integrate now with the whole infrastructure and the whole idea around of an environment within Tableau that you can integrate machine learning. In the past, I've just probably used the default features in Tableau and a bit of TabPy. I think the next level that Salesforce and Tableau have in mind is the integration of Einstein Analytics. But there's like you guys mentioned, there's a bit of a fee applicable. Maybe just to give you a bit more guidance, there is also a Tableau learning path specifically for data science. So that might give you a peek into what they see as their data science track. You should be able just to Google that by looking at Tableau Learning Center, and then there should be a data science one. Let me see if I can pull that up. Yeah, data science track. But yeah, I remember, if I remember fondly, me and Ron had a bit of a go at it at Juma a while back. We ended up using a bit of TabPy, doing a bit of sales forecast, but there were limitations back then. To be honest, I haven't used it recently. Let's see, Tableau e-learning.
Yeah, it's definitely an ecosystem thing. I mean, it's going to vary, I guess, from person to person, depending on what other options you've got in your environment, where your skills are, and kind of all the rest of it. I mean, it's quite funny. I mean, for a while, there were very distinct areas where the tools are, and there's definitely some crossover between what each thing can do. I mean, if I think of Alteryx and Tableau, I mean, there's elements what Alteryx can do that you can do within Tableau. You know, you can do visual stuff in Alteryx. Whether you would do it there depends on the use case. And I think that's the challenge sometimes. It's just there's lots of ways to get to it. The best, the best that I've seen is not necessarily it's this solution or that solution. It's more the thing that is the shortest learning path for the resources you've got, and the least expense in terms of having to add stuff to your environment. And yeah, it's quite tricky. If I had the magic answer, I would have written the book, I think.
Yeah. I suppose it's that's why that's why probably why not everybody does it, right? So it's not as easy.
Liesel will back me up. I built an entire career on the two words, it depends.
Yeah, that's good.
Just while Jacques is searching there, I mean, from any other thoughts from anyone from a logistics point of view? You know, we've got some ideas. I think certainly we'll take note of the different kind of topics that are being requested. I think it'll be good. And I think, again, we'll try and we'll try and do some work, I think, to reignite the Slack channel a little bit, so there's perhaps a little bit more debate and things, and maybe a route by which those things can come up, and we can make sure we keep those things interesting. I think the hybrid, it'll be worth giving the hybrid option a shot for the next one. I've spoken to the guys. Well, I've got a location hopefully that we can use. We're happy to do that. Just around, any thoughts from anyone around frequency, around kind of length of meeting, days of the week? Like Ruan's already told me off for making it a Monday, so I'll never make that mistake again. But no, any sort of thoughts or preferences from anyone as to ideas around that what would work and what wouldn't?
Maybe a good question to also ask people is whether their companies would be accommodating enough to see this as it's part of your job. You can do it during work hours, or is this something that has to be in your own time and it's private? So depending on how flexible people are, then we don't have to always do it after hours. We can consider it doing it during the day. I've previously joined some TUG sessions for other countries that have been over lunchtime, for example. So that seemed to work quite well for them. So that might be an option.
Yeah, personally, I think that will be an option. I mean, it is part of doing your job better. But then maybe just, that we can then have ample or far in advance, just to plan your day and really block out meetings and say, I'm not available. Or diaries, just to get time in diaries.
And maybe a suggestion would be that, if we decide on, let's say, once a quarter or so, and we actually tie down the dates for the whole year, for example, so then and then we can just close to the time actually work out what things we're going to be, chatting through, discussing on that day. I think people might appreciate that. And I mean, I'd even be keen for mornings, because people are a lot more engaging in mornings than they are usually in the afternoons as well.
Oh, sorry, good call. Yeah, I can see I'm on mute. Brunch snacks are always kind of good as well. So coffee and snacks in the morning, it would get my vote. I think that works quite well for people. So yeah, I think it's a good idea. But also maybe that's the thing is kind of, we can let's experiment with the next one and try and do something a little bit, go for something and say, okay, well, let's maybe try it for a morning thing where people can get away, plan it with plenty of time in advance, try the hybrid route and see how it goes. And if it works, then great, we can carry on. If it doesn't, then we can experiment again. Because I think quarterly seems to be sort of the general thing. It's obviously what typically comes up with a lot of stuff from Tableau. I know some of the bigger ones will do monthly, but I think quarterly probably makes sense for us, unless anyone that's got sort of serious arguments one way or the other around frequency.
No, I think quarterly is fine. Like, it feels like it should be more, but like nobody has time, right? So quarterly is about the best solution.
Yeah.
Happy with that.
I mean, maybe something we can try out is obviously in some of the sessions there might be quite a few questions that pop up that we don't have enough time to answer or go through, and maybe we can schedule like breakout sessions or something, just between two of the sort of events or something like that. If people have an appetite for something like that, maybe workshop where people can actually get hands on. I know that you've done that before, Nick. I know people like to actually go through example with someone where they had a specific challenge or something.
Yeah, I like that. I like that idea, because again, hopefully what would be nice is if we can get to the point where we're getting more participants again. We're obviously doing the right kind of things in terms of the things that we're presenting. Maybe a little bit more going on Slack or the other channels we got, just so we've got that sort of a little bit sense of momentum building again. There will be natural streams or different things that people fall into. And I think it's great if we've then got the opportunity to either do it ourselves or facilitate it in some way to kind of say, okay, look, you're really interested in building blocks of efficient dashboards. Cool, let's do something about it. Or, you're much more interested in kind of what's a really good way to set up my users efficiently, with the least amount of kind of overhead. Then, another thing we can set up around that. So I think to me, the whole, and we can use other platforms that sit out there. So I think this is maybe the point for me of the community, is not that it's more the fact that we just get more people who are interested in the space generally, talking and networking and having the conversations, that then spawn other things that happen outside of it. To me, then that's a mark of it becoming more of a thriving community, because it's not all geared around one event or one day or one speech.
But then to that effect, then you know, like having the quarterly events is one thing, but then it needs to be supplemented with just a monthly, whatever, even if it's like an hourly talk or something like that, or even if it's like a use case or a Tableau Doctor or a brain date or, you know, anything like that, where people can just come in. It's low commitment in low time, and you know, people can just jump in and learn.
Yeah, I think that's a nice way to do it, because again, with some of those things, the idea being the quarterly, you know, you obviously want to source the right material, get the right presentations together, and kind of put on an event. I mean, that's why why you're doing it, and making sure that, you know, if people are interested in speaking and want to come in, we've got plenty of time for them to prep and be part of it, which is, you know, good for people's growth. But the more ad hoc monthly, look, I'm just going to set up this thing for an hour, guys, join me, don't join me, you know, those would be nice. I think it's good to have those as an option, because and the topics there can be more on the fly rather than having to be like a massive amount of prep work or something that goes into it. It's just kind of, you know, like-minded people having a chat. I think that's a really cool suggestion. I think that would work nicely.
You mentioned, you know, the kind of the time of day, so it could be with the, you know, office hours, the events, or after hours. So just with that, just take into consideration, you know, the length of the meeting may then, you know, there's limitations in terms of when you do it in office hours, maybe after hours. So perhaps,
yeah,
I don't know.
Yeah, no, it's a good point. And yeah, I generally I don't try to. I try to have my first beer at least after about 10:30. So maybe we should think it through. But yeah, no, it's a good point. And I think, yeah, I think, and maybe that's the thing. Maybe we alternate them. Maybe we do the next one. We'll try a morning thing and get together for that and see how it goes. Maybe for the second one, we'll do it. You know, particularly if people, it looks like, are keen to get together. You know, maybe the fact that we can get together somewhere and have a beer and a chat is a nice thing to do as well, and plan the time accordingly. I think the key will be to just keep it interesting, and if it, you know, maybe if it becomes too formulaic, maybe that's the problem. You know, we'll just kind of change it up each time and keep it interesting.
Awesome.
Yeah, I think we can probably wrap it up if unless there's anything else that anyone else would like to cover off, or anything that hasn't been answered.
I think we're good.
Okay. Well, thanks guys for your time. Nice to see a few faces again, who I haven't seen for a little while. And yes, there'll definitely be, I think let's work on a hybrid event for the next one. Maybe we can look maybe around February time or something like that, once people are sort of had their break and come back. But I think in the meantime, I mean, the one thing I would really encourage, you know, there's obviously, I know some people in here I chat to a bit, and the channels are there and available. You know, any thoughts that you've got, anything that you can share, anything you want to put out, use the Slack channels, put things on there, make us, you know, make us kind of follow up on the things that need to happen. We're very willing to do it. You know, we don't always have all the answers of everything we want to do, but, you know, with the encouragement and enthusiasm for people wanting to learn things or find stuff, I mean, we're always very happy to source it. So let's see if we can get the community going forward a bit again. And fantastic, and I look forward to seeing you all next time.
Awesome. Thanks, everyone.
Thanks very much, everyone.
Thanks, everyone.
Awesome, guys.
Great. All right.
Bye.
Bye.
Bye bye.